This is 5.1, lesson 1. So for this lesson, we are going to be graphing equations, or I can graph equations. And we're going to do the opposite, so we can write equations from graphs. So the first thing we need to review is, or first thing we need to look at is we need to review a little bit. So remember we have this general form, it's called slope-intercept form. It's that y equals mx plus b. So we went over this yesterday, but I think we also hit on it again today. The m is our rate of change or our slope. And in order to graph it, we need to remember the phrase rise over run. We have rise over run. And then our B is our starting point, and when we graph that, that is our y-intercept. Okay, so looking at these equations below, we're going to find our m and our b. So our first equation is y equals 3x minus 2. Our m in the equation is 3. But I want us to go ahead and make it a fraction. So we're going to say that that is 3 over 1, because that's going to tell us our rise and our run. And our b is going to be the negative 2. Don't forget to put the negative with it. Number 2, our m, it doesn't look like there is an m, but it really is there. Remember, it's just a 1. So as a fraction, that's going to be 1 over 1. And then our b is a positive 7. And number 3, our m is 1 over 2. And our b, it doesn't look like there's one there. When there's not one there, remember that it's a 0 in this case. Okay, so using the m and b, we can graph quickly. We don't necessarily have to make a table in order to graph our equation. So step number 1 is we look at where we begin. The graph begins at 4 on the y-axis since b equals 4. Okay, so we have y equals 2x plus 4 where our b is 4. We begin on 4 on our y-intercept. It is this point right here. Then step 2 is we use our rate of change or our slope. Our slope is 2, but we don't like for it to be just 2. We like it to be a fraction because we like to do rise over run. Okay, so our 2 is really going to be 2 over 1. They are both positive, so 2 is our rise. It tells us to go up. So over here on our graph, we went up 2. And 1 is our run. It tells us right and left, and since it's positive, it's going to go right. Okay, so let's do some examples of these. So you'll flip it over. And here's our first one. We are actually writing the equation first of these. So in order to write our equation, we need to know our m and our b. Okay, so usually we begin with our b when we write the equation. And b is where we hit the y-axis, and in this case, it is negative 2. And then m is how we move. We do rise over run. So our rise, we go up 1, 2, 3, so it's a positive 3. And we go to the right, which is also positive. We go to the right 2. So our m is 3 over 2. So our full equation is going to be y equals 3 over 2x minus 2. Our second graph, our y-intercept, is at a positive 1. So that's our b. Then we're going to do rise over run. So we rise 1, 2, 3, so that's a positive 3. And then we go to the left 1. Left is negative. Okay, so we have 3 over negative 1, which we can say is just negative 3. Some of you also like to start with the top point, so we could have gone down 3, but then we would have gone to the right a positive 1, which would still have given you an m of negative 3. So our whole equation is going to be y equals negative 3x plus 1. So now we're going to graph given our equation. Okay, so we have y equals x minus 2. So we look at our b to begin, and we begin at -2. So that's our y-intercept. We're going to begin right here. Then m is how we move. We don't see an m in front of x, which means that it is a 1. Again, we like it as a fraction, so it's going to be a rise of 1 and a run of 1. So that means we're going to go up 1, and then we're going to go right 1, and that'll give us our next point. We're going to continue that pattern throughout our graph in both directions. So we can draw a nice straight line. Okay, number 2. Again, we begin with our b, and in this case it is 4. So we begin at 1, 2, 3, 4. Our m this time is -1. So we're going to say that is -1 over 1. Okay, -1 on the top means that we go down 1, but our bottom number is still positive. So we're going to go right 1, and that'll give us our next point. And we're going to continue that pattern all the way through our graph in both directions. And then we'll draw our line. Number 3, our b this time is -3. So we're going to begin at -3. Our m is 1 over 2. So that means we're going to rise 1. We're going to run 2 this time to get our next point. We'll continue that pattern, rise 1, run 2. We can go the opposite, down 1 and left 2. And then we can go ahead and draw our line. And then number 5, it looks like we don't have a b, but remember, if it doesn't look like there's one there, our b is 0. So we hit our y-axis at 0. Our m is -2/3. Remember, only one of the numbers gets the negative. So we're going to give the negative to the 2, and 3 is going to be positive. That means we do rise over run, so we're going to go down 2 and then right 3 to get our new point. I cannot go down 2 and right 3 on the graph again, so we're going to go the opposite direction, up 2, left 3. And again, I cannot do another one to the left either, so that's all the points we can have for this one. And then we can go ahead and draw our line.